The 2014 purchase of an £18 million chalet in Verbier by Andrew and Sarah Ferguson left even seasoned royal watchers stunned. Neither held formal employment or visible wealth to match such a deal. The fact that this luxury property was later sold to resolve a legal dispute only sharpened questions. Where did the money come from, and why was it spent so freely? These aren't just rich people's problems. They're indicators of a financial system operating outside public accountability, underpinned by mystery and If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. This Swiss deal is just one of several property moves that, taken together, paint a picture of concealed support, whether from family trusts, discreet donors, or financial loopholes. With Charles now applying stricter oversight, Andrew's financial independence looks increasingly like a myth. And as more details surface about these transactions, what was once dismissed as royal extravagance is now under serious scrutiny, exposing the fragile financial architecture behind the monarchy's most controversial figure. It's been years since Prince Andrew was officially sidelined from public royal duties. His titles may still be intact on paper, but his standing inside and outside the palace has never recovered. From one of the Queen's most high-profile sons to the royal family's biggest liability, his public fall from grace has been unprecedented. But the real scandal isn't just about reputational damage. It's about money. Because even with no official role, no visible job, and no royal salary, Andrew continues to live a lifestyle that raises more questions than answers. A £20,000 annual pension. No business ventures. No paid engagements. Yet he maintains a multimillionaire existence. So the question stands, who is bankrolling Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor? Let's start with Royal Lodge. That alone tells you everything you need to know about the problem. This isn't a modest home tucked away in a quiet corner of Windsor. It's a sprawling 30-room estate located on Crown land, a former residence of the Queen Mother. It was handed to Andrew in 2004 under a long-term lease. And the catch? He doesn't pay rent. What is responsible for is the upkeep, estimated at hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. On a £20,000 pension, the numbers don't work. And yet, 4 years, Andrew has managed to remain there, maintaining the illusion of wealth and normalcy even as his public life has unraveled. But it's not just a lodge. The entire financial picture surrounding him is a puzzle with missing pieces. If you love getting the real story behind the palace walls, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap the notification bell so you never miss an update. Take Sunning Hill Park, for example. This was Andrew's former marital home, gifted by the late Queen after his marriage to Sarah Ferguson. After years of sitting vacant, it was sold in 2007 for £15 million, £3 million over the asking price. The buyer was a Kazakh businessman with business interests in the UK. The house itself was in disrepair and eventually demolished. It never saw a single day of use by the buyer. The sale sparked questions immediately. Who pays well over market value for a property in poor condition, then lets it sit unused? And more importantly, why? The deal reeked of something more than a simple transaction. Many saw it as a financial favor, a way to indirectly hand Andrew money under the guise of a legitimate sale. Years later, Andrew and Sarah Ferguson bought a luxury ski chalet in Verbier, Switzerland, for £18 million. No mortgage, no financing disclosures, just a multi-million-pound purchase by two individuals with no visible means of affording it. The finances behind that deal were never made public, but the cracks started to show quickly. By 2020, the couple was sued for failing to repay £6.6 million owed on the property. It was eventually sold, reportedly to help cover not only the debt but the legal settlement that followed Andrew's civil case with Virginia Giuffre. That settlement, estimated at £12 million. And yet again, the question came up, how? By that point, Andrew had already lost his royal patronages and official duties. He was no longer a working royal. He was no longer receiving public funds. And yet, he managed to make a settlement that would financially devastate most people. According to widespread reports, the late Queen stepped in to help. Using her private funds, possibly from the Duchy of Lancaster, she reportedly covered some or all of the costs to make the lawsuit disappear without a public trial. That arrangement may have saved the monarchy from a PR disaster, but it exposed a deeper issue. Andrew wasn't just relying on past privilege. He was still being shielded financially, even after being cut off from public life. But since Queen Elizabeth's passing, that protection seems to be evaporating. King Charles has been clear about his vision, a smaller, more accountable monarchy, one that reflects the economic realities of the modern era. And in that world, there's no room for a royal living like a king with no job, no duties, and no answers about how he's affording it all. It's why the push to move Andrew out of Royal Lodge is so important. The palace may not say it out loud, but the motivation is obvious. The optics are bad, the costs are worse, and the days of silent support are over. Charles reportedly wants Andrew to relocate to a smaller property on the Sandringham estate, something more in line with his now limited status and budget. Andrew, for his part, is refusing. Is holding on to the lease, claiming his right to stay, even as questions mount about whether he can afford to maintain the property at all. But the resistance isn't just about property, it's about pride, about status, about clinging to the last symbol of a life that's slipping out of reach. There's no evidence Andrew has an alternative source of income, no public business, no known investments, no consulting, no speaking engagements, no tell-all interviews. The theories swirling around him range from secret trust funds to undisclosed family contributions to quiet support from wealthy friends abroad. But none of it has ever been confirmed, and that lack of transparency is exactly the problem. Because Andrew isn't a private citizen in the ordinary sense. He may be outside the royal rota, but his actions and his finances reflect back on the entire institution. When his money trail disappears into a fog of secrecy, it undermines the very idea of a modern, accountable monarchy. It's not just about what Andrew can afford. It's about what the monarchy can afford to ignore. With every new report about his lifestyle, his security costs, his property battles, his past financial deals, the questions grow louder, and the palace's refusal to answer them only feeds public distrust. You can't present the crown as a symbol of stability while one of its most controversial members continues to enjoy privilege that makes no financial sense. Andrew's current net worth is estimated at around £3.7 million. But most of that appears to be tied up in property, not cash. If the chalet sale helped cover the Jufrey settlement, then what's left? Without liquidity, without income, and without ongoing support from the crown, Andrew's lifestyle is on borrowed time. His financial position isn't secure, it's fragile, vulnerable to lawsuits, property costs, and the slow withdrawal of royal protection. Every year that goes by without a sustainable income stream brings him closer to a reckoning. And if the palace wants to prove it's serious about reform, it can't afford to keep looking the other way. The reality is, the monarchy doesn't need another scandal tied to secrecy. The public has become increasingly critical of how royal finances are handled. In a world where everything is scrutinized, down to the cost of a royal train journey, letting Andrew live unchecked is a PR nightmare waiting to happen. And make no mistake, the scrutiny isn't going away. Every new headline, every leaked detail, every reluctant move from Windsor to Sandringham only reminds the public of what hasn't been addressed. Not just Andrew's past, but the question no one has answered. Where's the money coming from? Until the palace provides a clear explanation, the suspicion remains. And it's not just a stain on Andrew's reputation. It's a risk to the crown itself. If the monarchy wants to move forward, it is to reckon with the past. And part of that reckoning means being honest about who's been paying the bills, and why. Let us know what you think. Are we ever going to get the full story behind Prince Andrew's finances? Should the royal family be held accountable for what goes on behind closed gates? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you're watching this whole saga unfold with a raised eyebrow, and subscribe for more straight-shooting breakdowns of the biggest royal and celebrity controversies. Because this isn't just about a prince with a money problem. It's about the power, privilege, and silence that let it happen in the first place. And this is where it starts to get even more uncomfortable, not just for Andrew, but for the entire royal institution trying to clean up the mess. The more you look at the money trail, or rather, the lack of one, the clearer it becomes that this isn't just a case of one rogue royal living beyond his means. This is a systemic failure to address it, a carefully maintained silence, a decision, somewhere along the line, to keep the public guessing rather than risk full disclosure. Because if the truth about Prince Andrew's finances ever did come out, It might reveal more than anyone in the palace is prepared to handle. Let's talk about the numbers one more time. A £20,000 annual pension. That's all we're told Andrew has an official income. That doesn't even scratch the surface of the cost of living Royal Lodge, let alone cover private security, staff, travel, utilities, and the upkeep of an estate that size. Even conservative estimates suggest maintaining Royal Lodge runs into 6 figures per year. Then add in the fallout from his legal situation, reportedly a £12 million settlement, and the math is not just fuzzy. It's fiction. You can't outspend your earnings for years without support. That's not conspiracy, it's basic accounting. Which leads us to what no one will say on the record. Prince Andrew is being, or at least was being, subsidized. Whether it's from hidden family wealth, private trust funds, offshore accounts, or quiet help from foreign contact with deep pockets, someone, somewhere, has kept his lifestyle intact. And it's at opacity that has become the real scandal. Because if it were just about personal finances, this story would have fizzled out years ago. But Andrew isn't just a private citizen. He's a royal, a member of an institution that holds itself up as a symbol of tradition, stability, and duty. When someone like him is living luxuriously without any visible means to support it, and no one steps in to explain how, the public has every right to ask what else is being hidden behind palace gates. Especially now, post-Megxit, post-monarch transition, the monarchy is on shaky ground. King Charles has made it clear he wants a modern, slimmed-down version of the royal family. Fewer working royals, fewer public expenses, and a tighter grip on optics. But none of that land when Prince Andrew is still refusing to downsize, still living at taxpayer-adjacent Grace, and still surrounded by questions. His reported move to a smaller home on the Sandringham estate isn't just a real estate decision. It's a symbolic demotion, a controlled retreat, a move to contain, reduce, and rebrand his presence without kicking him out entirely. But the fact that it's taken this long tells you everything you need to know about the palace's reluctance to deal with him head-on. It's not that they don't know the public wants answers. It's that they are terrified of what full transparency might uncover. Because let's not forget, this isn't just about Andrew's spending. It's also about where that money may have come from. And once you start pulling that thread, you risk unspooling the whole narrative. Secret funds? Private royal reserves? International connections from his days as a trade envoy? All of it is fair game. And all of it would be a PR disaster. That's why the palace has tried to keep everything under wraps. Strategic leaks. Carefully worded denials. A slow, behind-the-scenes retreat from public life for Andrew, all while never answering the one question that undercuts the entire strategy. How is he still living like this? And yes, maybe the answer is that the Queen used private funds to support her son during her lifetime. Maybe Charles has quietly agreed to honor certain arrangements for the sake of family unity. But if that's true, say it, because right now, all we have is silence, and in that silence, speculation has flourished. It's not just tabloids digging around. It's the public asking real questions about legitimacy, privilege, and accountability. And in 2025, that matters more than ever. We're not in the era of blind royal deference anymore. We're in the age of receipts, transparency, and public pressure. If the monarchy wants to continue existing in a modern world, it has to play by modern rules. And that means addressing the Andrew-sized hole in its financial narrative. Because whether they like it or not, his story is the royal family's story now. The story of how power protects itself. How privilege lingers long after public duty ends. How silence can do just as much damage as scandal. And make no mistake, Andrew's finances are scandal. Not just for what they imply, but for what they reveal about the crown's priorities. The fact that this question has been asked for years and never meaningfully answered says everything. It says that some royals are still above accountability, that image is still valued over honesty, that the institution would rather manage the optics than face the truth. And as long as Andrew remains comfortably housed, visibly funded, and publicly unaccountable, the pressure will continue. There's a reason the palace keeps pushing to move him to Sandringham. It's not just about lowering the bills. It's about reducing the visibility, hiding the excess, making it all less offensive to the public eye. But that's not a solution. That's a delayed tactic, and the clock is running out. At some point, the palace is going to have to stop managing this in whispers. They'll have to come clean, if not about the past, then at least about the present. Because with every passing year, it becomes harder to justify the silence, harder to maintain the illusion, harder to keep this kind of privilege under wraps. Andrew may think he's weathered the worst of it, that settling the lawsuit and stepping out of the spotlight was the end of the story. But in reality, it's just a calm before another storm. Because financial scandals don't just go away. They linger, they resurface, and when they involve public figures tied to public institutions, they demand answers. If Andrew wants to avoid further humiliation, and if the palace wants to protect what's left of its credibility, the best thing they can do now is tell the truth. However uncomfortable, however damaging, because the alternative, letting this drag on indefinitely, is far worse. At the very least, the public deserves to know whether any taxpayer-adjacent funds have been used to support him, whether the Queen's personal assistance came from official estates, whether any future support will be provided, and by whom, because without those answers, trust in the royal system continues to erode. Prince Andrew's financial mystery isn't just about one man. It's about a system that allowed it, ignored it, and continues to hope no one notices. But people have noticed. They've connected the dots. They've read the headlines, questioned property deals, and calculated the numbers. And what they found doesn't make sense. It never did. So now it's time for the palace to stop pretending the questions don't exist. Because the longer they wait, the more people assume the worst. And in the royal business, public perception is everything. And yet, after everything, Andrew still acts like nothing has changed. His not doing tell-all interviews or dramatic apology tours. His not taking responsibility or even offering a halfway convincing narrative about his finances. No effort to explain how he stayed afloat. No public gesture to show humility. Just silence, and the occasional news story about him refusing to downsize from Royal Lodge, like a royal squatter clinging to square footage. That stubbornness has become its own spectacle. And let's be clear, this isn't about one wealthy man resisting a lifestyle change. It's about the symbolic weight of what Royal Lodge represents. Because Andrew isn't just hanging on to a home. He's hanging on to the last shreds of royal identity. That mansion isn't just a place. It's power, protection, and privilege, all wrapped up in ivy-covered walls. But here's what makes it even more frustrating. It's not sustainable. Not financially, not publicly, not politically. With no working role, no visible income, and no queen to quietly make problems disappear, the illusion is starting to collapse. The palace knows it. The press knows it. And the public? They've known it for a long time. Yet Andrew is still living like it's 2003. Like the royal safety net is infinite and invisible. Like public perception is something that can be dodged as long as he stays off camera and keeps the curtains drawn. But that strategy has run its course. Because while he might not be holding press conferences or walking red carpets, the scrutiny hasn't let up. It's shifted from scandal to sustainability, from what he did to how he's still living the way he is. And the longer the palace refuses to acknowledge it, the more people start asking whether the institution itself is complicit. Let's look at what's being signaled behind closed doors. The reported move to a smaller Sandringham property wasn't presented as a punishment, but it was a warning shot, a financial reality check. King Charles has made it very clear that the royal budget will be trimmed, the family tree will be pruned, and the old ways of handling scandal with secrecy and silent checks are done. And Andrew is not fitting into that plan. He's the one royal who hasn't moved on. Not professionally, not publicly, not financially. He's still operating like there's some private bank vault marked for Andrew only, full of invisible money that covers his estate, his legal fees, his past, and his pride. And the truth is, there probably was support like that. For a while, when the Queen was alive, when the palace could still sweep things under the rug, and trust that public scrutiny would fade. But those days are over. Charles isn't going to bankroll nostalgia, and the public won't forget what hasn't been answered. So now, Andrew's sitting in a very precarious spot. His net worth is modest by royal standards, around £3.7 million, most of it in property. That's not nothing, but it's not liquid. And it's definitely not enough to keep the lifestyle going indefinitely, especially when you factor in property upkeep, security costs, and legal debt. In short, his house rich and cash poor. And his refusal to scale back isn't just a bad look, it's a financial countdown. Because if he won't move willingly, and he can't pay for Royal Lodge long term, what's next? Forced eviction? Public fallout? Another humiliating leak about his dwindling finances? The palace is trying to avoid that kind of headline. That's why they are handling it quietly, encouraging, not ordering, suggesting, not demanding. But make no mistake, it's a controlled slide, a phase-out, a financial reality being slowly imposed on a man who refuses to accept that his status isn't what it used to be. And the real irony? All of this could have been prevented with one thing: transparency. If years ago there had been a clear, public explanation about how Andrew was being supported, if someone had taken ownership of the financial picture, it wouldn't have erased the scandal, but it would have taken the edge off the speculation. It would have helped the palace get ahead of the story. Instead, we got silence, evasive answers, vague press briefings, and a prince whose lifestyle continues to contradict everything we've been told about his fall from grace. So here we are, years after stepping down, years after the settlement, years into a self-imposed royal exile, and we still don't know who's been writing the checks. And frankly, that silence has become more damaging than the money ever was. Because the monarchy's biggest currency isn't gold, it's trust. And right now, that trust is being strained every time Andrew refuses to move, every time a new property deal surfaces, every time the financial math just doesn't work out. And unless something changes, unless there's transparency, real accountability, or public course correction, this isn't going away. It'll keep circling back, dragging down everything the monarchy is trying to modernize. What do you think? Should Andrew finally be forced to explain where the money is coming from? Is the palace quietly protecting him, or just stalling for damage control? Leave a comment with your take, like if you're over the royal double standards, and subscribe for more deep dives that pull back the curtain on the drama they'd rather keep buried. Because this story, it's far from over.